Well, different cultures observe different rules for table manners, but today we're going to teach you to mind your manners American style.
Roberta Boggess teaches at the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at the University of Mexico and is showing us the proper way to stick a fork in it, which is actually a program you're going to be doing.
Right. Good morning.
Good morning. We're glad to have you here this morning.
Thanks.
Yeah, and you know, we want to mention that you actually taught English with Albuquerque Public Schools for 31 years, and you were named Chamber of Commerce Blue Ribbon Teacher of the Year in both 1990 and 1998, so congratulations on that.
Thanks.
And now you're teaching at the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. So tell us a little bit about the programs that the Institute offers first.
The Institute is a program through UNM that offers classes for people who are 50 and older.
Okay.
They want to take interesting classes, but they don't want to write papers. They don't want to write any tests at the end of the class. And so they just come and sign up for things that interest them and keep them alive and keep them learning.
How nice. That's so wonderful they have that opportunity.
And you teach a class that includes the history of table manners.
Right. If you are an Osher member, and it's $20 to join, and when you join you get a free class, and every single month you get a free lecture. And this month for July, the free lecture, the 2-hour lecture, is one on the history of table manners, and it's called Stick a Fork in It.
I love
Stick a
that
fork
name.
in it. That's what we were talking about just a while ago. And there's some really interesting things you're going to be showing us today about table manners, right?
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about the origin of standard cutlery, first of all, and basically how that is changed to reflect manners?
Okay, all of you have sat down at the table and you've seen a fork and a knife and a spoon, but you may not know where they came from.
Right.
The spoon itself is really an imitation of what people used to do when they would go to eat or drink water out of a creek. You cup your hands together, you scoop the water up, and you put it up here. But the problem is that you dribble it down the front of you.
Right.
So eventually what everybody started doing was taking a vine and they'd attach that shell that they noticed looked like their hands to a stick. And that's where the spoon came about. Now, when you're out gathering food, there are always people who want to take it away from you. So you have to find a way to defend yourself. So people came up with knives. But it didn't look like this knife.
It was a defense mechanism?
Yep, it was going to have a real sharp point on it, so if you tried to take my food, I was going to stab you. It became a handy-dandy tool for killing your enemy, cleaning out your fingernails, picking your teeth, everything else. And people used to come to the dinner table with this all-purpose utensil, little blood on it, little fingernail stuff on it.
Yuck!
And in the 1600s, there was a cardinal in France named Richelieu, and he got very disgusted by the fact that people kept sticking this thing in their mouth and picking their teeth with it. So at this point, he mandated that table knives would have a rounded end, so that you couldn't pick your teeth and you couldn't pick fights at the table.
How interesting.
And it had a little groove put in it, and people used to scoop up their food and catch it in the groove and stick it in their mouth.
Oh my gosh.
So they ate with the knife?
Yep, when you were a kid you might have learned that nursery rhyme that goes, I eat my peas with honey, I've done it all my life. It makes my peas taste funny, but it keeps them on my knife. That's where this comes from.
Wow. Now this is what, go ahead.
And then along comes a fork.
Yes.
Now the original reason of a fork was simply to hold your meat down in place so that you could cut.
Right.
And you can see that this one's curved, but the original fork would have been straight, just like your knife. So in Europe, you'd put it here, you'd cut, and you transfer the meat to your mouth.
That's why when they say the European way, that's how you eat that way. Okay.
But what happened was, in what would become the United States, it would take another 100 years before forks got here. So what people in the U.S. were doing is they were holding it down with their spoon, cutting like this, but you've got this round bowl here, so you can't push the food up on it, it falls off. So what you do is turn it over, and everybody's right-handed, scoop it up with your right hand and put it in your mouth. By the time forks got here to the United States, people were so used to just switching over like this and scooping it up that that's what we do.
See, now my grandma always tells me, you're not a lady if you eat with your fork like that. You have to do the European way. She always tells me that. Is that right or wrong? She's very sophisticated.
Well, if you live in the United States, you do it that way. But if you go to Europe, everybody's going to laugh at you. So you just decide, do you want to adapt, or do you just want to say, I'm an American, and that's the way it is.
Hey, I can go with that. I can go with I'm an American. And you are teaching us the American style. Can you discuss some of the terms, basically, in English that come from manners? You know, we say things like room and board, or cupboard, trencher, doilies, etc.
Room and board, when people first came to the colonial Americas, they would want to have a room in someone's house, and part of what came with that was the food. The room makes sense. But colonial tables, homes were so small that your table was actually 2 sawhorses with a couple boards on it. And when you were done with your meal, you disassembled the whole thing. So if someone was staying with you and they paid for food, they got a place on that board, and that's where room and board comes from.
I love it.
And dishes were so rare that people judge their wealth by how many dishes they own. So you may have a piece of furniture in your dining room that has shelves with a little board on it, and that's where you displayed your cups to show you were that wealthy.
Well, we're going to have you back again to talk a little more about some of these things, because I know we always want to get better etiquette, and I know a lot of people can do that by taking your class that you're teaching, as we said, called Stick a Fork in It, and that's taking place on July 26th at the UNM Continuing Education Program. So what does that class involve?
Basically, just come sign up for the class, show up, and learn a lot of things.
I think we can do that. I'm excited. Thank you so
you
much. It's been a pleasure. We learned a lot today. And we're not done yet, because after the break, we'll tell you how you can be the next Face of Fox.